Going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Another day, another dollar. We're looking at the futures contract right now, looking at the ES futures contract, SPY, SP 500, whatever you may identify it as. Yesterday's video, we walked you through basically my thought process on what this market wanted to do. And I mean, we were pretty much kind of spot on as far as our levels go. Give me 1 second, trying to add something. There we go. Bring up the big time charts real quick so you guys can see what we were talking about yesterday. In case you missed it, yesterday's video, I was talking about how the daily was in balance for me. Okay, gave you guys my levels, saying how today, I was looking for us to hold above, or yesterday we wanted to hold above 52.50. If we did that, we should rotate back up to the upside. If we can get above 5,400, hold above 5,400, we should see 5,500 level. I mean, we should also get above the 20-day moving average. First time in a while, we got above it, and we so far today we've pulled back. Not only was I discussing about getting above these levels, what we needed to see, and filling the upside gap that we had also at the same time. Not only were we discussing that, but we were looking at a potential weekly balance that we would be coming back into. So if we go to our weekly chart, we were discussing this yesterday, how we needed to take out last week's high of 54.9650. So 96.50 was last week's high. That's what we needed to get above to put the weekly back into a balance. We had a failed attempt at an inside week down. Right now, as of today, and 2 days left in the trading week, we have failed at an outside week up, meaning we took out last week's low and we also took out last week's high. The weekly is firmly in balance at this point for me. All right. How big the balance gets more or less depends on how much of a push up we get. If tomorrow we come in a little bit more bullish because today we opened up with a gap. The gap is still holding as of today. As of right now, as I'm making this video, the market still has about 40 minutes till close, 50 minutes, excuse me, until close. But as of right now, it's looking like a failed attempt at an outside week up. Now, there's still plenty of time. The market is still bullish in the shorter term, in the sense of the daily. From my perspective, we have broken out balance on our daily chart and pushed up. Now we've hit these levels. What we really like to see is basically a hold above 5,400. If we can close above 5,400 today, stay above that, get above 54.50, and then ultimately what you would like to see tomorrow is an extension above the 5,500 level and clearly above that 96.50 level of the weekly high from last week. In doing so, we would really have a strong chance as an outside week up, which would be extremely bullish. If we go back to our daily chart, okay, go back to our daily chart, pull up our levels, right? Essentially, the reason we need to hold above 5,400 is because that was what I had as my balance high. Now, tomorrow, if we come back in and fill the gap, we're right back to balance. And, those of you that kept your balance as that large spike up on the ninth high and the Monday before low, you'd still be in balance, right? And for those people, they got into a near balance high. Balance rules came into effect. We got near balance high, and we've backed off so far. For those that are looking at, but for me, I'm looking at the daily. For me, was coming out of balance above the 5,400 level. We get above that and hold above it, which we desperately need right now going into the close. If we come in, and I'll show you my ideas on that here in just a second. I think there's a good chance for this gap may get filled, which would also be a back test of that 9 SMA, which is around that 46 level. So we'd probably back test 53.50 if we filled that gap. And once again, a hold above that 53.50 level would then rotate us up, back up above the 400 level. So pretty much just level to level is what we got going on. For those that kept your balance in a much larger balance, stay up here. Even here, tested balance high. Now you're rotating back down lower, is the idea in that sense for those that had that balance there. So you saw really good defense if you were a seller of 5,500 and get some balance high using that 5,520 if that was your level. Excellent job so far by the sellers. Once again, bulls need to hold the 5,400 level. All right, now let's look at what's going on today. Today was a very mixed MGI day, mixed market generated information. It was all over the place. I was all over the place. Closing down the day, just down small. I'm down 36 bucks. At one point, I was down as much as 220, and I was up as much as 100 at one point in time. Very small gain turned into a larger loss towards the midpoint of the day, which then resulted in me coming back to break even. And I'll explain those trades here in just a second. But today, you can see we have a little bit of a gap here. All right, we have a little bit of a gap that needs to get filled. That gets filled at yesterday's high of 53.39.25. We pull back, we would fill that gap. Now, funny enough, if I pull up my other chart here, go to the 30-minute chart that I have on here. From time to time, I'll do these extensions, not always, but it is kind of funny how this worked out. If we're using today's high and today's low in that afternoon rally high level of 40, you can see where our 100% extension would be, which would be pretty much the gap fill. So if this were to have some type of continuation to the downside, 100% extension would be around that 53.30 level and yesterday's high. 618 is just slightly below there or slightly above, but ultimately think you would get that on a downside push if we were to get any extension tomorrow to the downside. As for today, trading, like I said, was all over the place. The market was very wild action early on in the morning. If you watched this morning's price action, it was all over the place. I had a really good long in B period against the opening. It pushed up and I got out of the trade pretty much unscathed. And then in C period, not unscathed, but with basically no drawback. I actually took it at 55. The low in B period was 53.50. We pushed up. I got out of it. Once again, there was no harm in that trade. In C period, got a little sketchy for me. I took a long attempting to go get the IB high because B period had already taken out A's high. We were one time framing up, gap, value, you name it, the bulls had it. So in C period, I took the long to go and get the IB high. We pushed up near it, and knowing that where our location that we were at, I was like, I really want to stay in it to go if they can go and get it. They got it by like a couple points. I think what was it? B period's high was 99.75. We didn't even get the IB high. Excuse me. We didn't even get the IB high. We missed it by 3 ticks, actually. So whenever it pushed up, I got out of the trade for a very small gain. I attempted it again. I pushed up. I stopped out pretty much break even on it. And as we were kind of struggling up here, I was like, you know what? They can't get the IB high. We have the overnight high. There's no issue with that. They can't get the IB high. We're near a level that is very, very visual, the 5,500 level. So if this market wants to pull back and get the IB low, this would be the opportunity for any shorts to step in. So I decided to get short. I did get short 94. It pulled back in C period to about 89, 88 and 87. I got out, I think it was around 87. I was seeing, it pulled back pretty much right after I got into the trade. So I got out immediately. It pushed back up. I tried to reload. It kind of came back in a little bit, pushed up again. I got in, I reloaded for 92, I think was the trade. 92 was around the area. I think it came in a little bit, but then came back up to 92 and was just kind of sitting there for a minute. And I was like, man, this is the time they go and get the IB high. They could really start going if shorts squeeze out of this trade. And at that time, I was thinking, but we haven't got the IB high. We could go get the IB low. I was even talking in Paul Asmar's chat room, his trading room, about how we might go get this IB low and, kind of get some damage done to the buyers if we can't hold up here. And sure enough, as soon as I took it off, this market came in, and it came in pretty good. Uh, this line here was just to mark the open. I forgot what I put there. Now I know why. But in D period, we pulled back against the opening. I got in, got stopped out. It continued to push down. I did nothing in E period. In F period, this is where I began to get myself in trouble. In F period, seeing that we couldn't hold trend in D, in F, whenever it opened up, we had just a small set of single prints. It pulled back, and it was kind of chopping around the 40 or 405 to 410 level. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get long against E's low, and look to rotate back up and get a wider point of control around maybe the 40 level. Was kind of more or less where I was looking for us to get back to. I got long. I added on a pullback, and then I just ended up getting obliterated and stopped out below 90. Market pulled back to around, what was it, 85. Front ran the overnight low, and then kind of began to push back up. Well, at that point, I was down about $220. Very bad trade on my part. Kind of impatient. Didn't really. There was really no reason for me to get in where I got in. A, and then B, the market was one time framing down. They could go get. We know how fidgety and weak-handed these traders are. So I should have been more aware. I should not have gotten in that trade, but I did anyway. However, in G period, I was able to get back involved. I seen, F might be a little bit of an excess type of thing. So in G period, whenever we pulled back and held the 5,400 level, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get long, 2 lot to go and rotate back up to around maybe the 40 level, or even if it got really bullish, back up to the 69 level where point of control had originally been. The reason I was looking for 40 was because I was thinking maybe they would lower point of control to that point. Obviously today they moved it, or throughout the day they ended up moving it even lower. But however, that was my trade idea, was to come back up into this 40 level. That was also right around where the 144 simple moving average on the 1 minute chart was located. So looking to, and at this point, G had already stopped one time framing down. So I was confident in the trade, took a 2 lot, it rotated up, and I got out pretty much after it pushed up to 40. I seen it was struggling up there. It pulled back to around 36.75, and I got out of that trade, pretty much making back all that I lost, leaving me down about $30 on the day. So obviously they were the H was an afternoon rally high. Each time I and J pushed up, could have taken a short against that and clearly would have paid. But because of the gap and everything, I decided to just not trade the rest of the day. I make this video early, so that is pretty much the extent of my trading day. Once again, these videos are more or less just for myself to kind of talk through my thought processes, hear myself talk about the trades I took, the ones I didn't like, the ones I did like. But if anybody does watch this and they enjoy it, thanks for stopping by. If not, that's also okay. Once again, these videos are just for myself and my own entertainment. Going into the close, what do buyers need to be careful of? Well, they want to hold F slow. Plain and simple. They want to hold F slow and the overnight low. If they do not close above 5,400, then this market is weak, and it'll be pretty likely, pretty good likelihood of this gap getting filled tomorrow, if not in the overnight session, right? And obviously we'll be back to balance for myself, like we discussed earlier in the video. Anybody that had that larger bound balance, you're still in balance, right? Nothing's pretty much unresolved. If you just ignore A, B, and C and look at D period through L, it's pretty much a B shape, meaning long liquidation. Typically in the profile world, you have 2 shapes of 3 that you see most common. First one being a P shape, second one being a B shape, and then the last one being a bell-shaped curve. It means just a lot of rotation back and forth. Today, if you just ignore the first 3 time frames, it's a B shape, long liquidation. If it were a P shape, kind of like the overnight or yesterday was to an extent, means short covering, right? That short covering brought us new highs. New hires brought sellers, and guess what? You got long liquidation, which brings about a B shape. So what should happen here is buyers step in around this the lows of today, have their stop below it maybe, and look to rotate back up higher. However, if the sellers are strong, they're going to push below F's low, and then you have Mo or M period come in, and they could really, I mean, potentially fill this gap by the end of the day if sellers were to get serious here. However, you never know. I've seen it multiple times where they look below and then come rotating right back up. So just a matter of what the market's feeling, what the best risk reward is. It's not a terrible risk reward to take a long right here against 85. Use that as your out, and look for the rotation back up to a wider point of control around the 20 level. All right. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be about all I have today. Hopefully, I can continue these videos and keep proving to myself, you know, proving my ideas and thoughts correct, more or less, or maybe even seeing what's not correct. You get the idea. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. See you.